From millions of fans and sky-high sales to a cascade of lawsuits and plummeting profits, Logan Paul's business empire seems to be collapsing at an alarming pace. How did one of the internet's biggest stars go from success to scandal so quickly? And is there any way to save what's left of his crumbling empire?
I would not say I'm a crypto leader. I'm an innovator, and that's for sure. And I always try to take a model that is working and do it just a little bit better.
When Prime Hydration and Prime Energy first hit the market, it felt like the launch of the century. The brainchild of Logan Paul and KSI, two of the biggest names in the influencer world. Prime wasn't just another drink, it was a phenomenon. The duo leveraged their massive social media followings, turning their legions of fans into an instant consumer base. Prime was everywhere. On YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. People were lining up at the crack of dawn just to get their hands on a bottle. And we're not just talking about regular demand. This was the kind of frenzy you'd expect for a limited edition sneaker drop. Sales figures were mind-blowing. In its first year alone, Prime reportedly cleared over $250 million in retail sales. That's an insane amount for a product that had just hit the shelves. The hype was so intense that resellers were flipping bottles on eBay for hundreds of dollars. It wasn't just about the drink itself, it was about being part of the Prime experience. This drink had somehow morphed into a cultural status symbol. Everyone wanted to be seen with a bottle of Prime in hand, whether they were hitting the gym or just chilling at home. Prime's success was also a masterclass in influencer marketing. Logan Paul and KSI weren't just partners in business. They were also the faces of the brand, and their fans couldn't get enough. The energy surrounding the product was palpable. It felt like Prime was more than just a beverage, it was a movement. But as the saying goes, what goes up must come down, and Prime was no exception. The initial euphoria surrounding Prime couldn't last forever, and soon the cracks began to show. As time went on, it became clear that Prime was struggling to maintain the same level of demand it had enjoyed during its explosive launch. Sales started to dip, and the buzz that once surrounded the brand began to fizzle out. It wasn't just a seasonal slump. Something was fundamentally off. One of the biggest challenges Prime faced was competition. Other brands began to emerge, offering drinks that simply tasted better. While Prime was marketed as a better-for-you option with fewer calories and lower sugar, it turned out that consumers, especially kids, cared more about flavor than health benefits. The irony here is thick. Prime's health-conscious branding may have been its undoing. In a market saturated with flavorful, sugary options, Prime's low sugar profile just didn't cut it. Another issue was maintaining the hype. When you build your brand on the back of influencer-driven excitement, keeping that momentum going is tough. The same social media frenzy that propelled Prime to stardom also made it vulnerable. Once the novelty wore off, people moved on to the next big thing. And without that constant buzz, sales began to slip. It was a harsh reminder that hype can only take you so far. As if declining sales weren't bad enough, Prime found itself entangled in a web of legal issues that further tarnished its reputation. The brand, once the golden child of the influencer world, was now facing multiple lawsuits that threatened to bring it to its knees. The first major legal hurdle came in the form of a lawsuit accusing Prime of containing dangerously high levels of PFAS, a group of chemicals often referred to as forever chemicals because they don't break down in the environment. The lawsuit alleged that these chemicals were harmful to consumers and that Prime had failed to disclose their presence. Logan Paul, never one to shy away from controversy, responded publicly, defending the brand and dismissing the allegations. While his response might have appeased some fans, the damage to Prime's reputation was done. Next came the lawsuit from Refresco, a major independent beverage manufacturer. This one was a doozy. Refresco claimed that Prime had breached a contract worth $68 million. According to the lawsuit, Refresco had invested heavily in setting up a specialized production line to manufacture Prime's uniquely shaped bottles. Refresco was essentially saying that Prime had pulled the rug out from under them after they'd already spent a fortune on the project. It's a classic case of overpromising and under-delivering, and it put Prime in a very precarious position. As if things couldn't get any worse, Prime also found itself in hot water with the US Olympic Committee. USOPC. The committee sued Prime for unauthorized use of Olympic-related trademarks. Prime had used phrases like Team USA and Go for Gold in its marketing materials without permission, and the USOPC wasn't having it. Trademark law is no joke, and the USOPC was well within its rights to protect its intellectual property. The lawsuit not only put Prime at risk of losing millions, but also damaged its credibility. Using such high-profile trademarks without authorization was a rookie mistake, and it further eroded consumer trust. Rounding out the legal troubles was a lawsuit from Agravana, the company that supplied Prime's coconut water mix. Agravana accused Prime of breaching 2 separate contracts, claiming that after Prime's sales started to slow, they convinced Agravana to adjust the terms of their agreement. However, Prime allegedly defaulted on payments and canceled orders, leaving Agravana holding the bag. The lawsuit sought $13 million in damages, adding yet another financial burden to Prime's growing list of problems. Running a successful business isn't just about having a great product. It's about making smart, strategic decisions at every turn. Unfortunately, Prime, under Logan Paul's leadership, seemed to miss the mark on this front. The company's downfall can be traced back to a series of poor business decisions and mismanagement. A glaring example is their failure to fulfill contractual obligations, like the one with Refresco. Instead of tightening the ship when sales began to slip, Prime pulled out of key commitments, leading to massive lawsuits and a tarnished reputation. The problems didn't stop there. Logan Paul's controversial public persona, which had helped launch Prime into the spotlight, became a liability when things started to go wrong. His past scandals resurfaced, making consumers and business partners wary of associating with a brand led by someone with such a polarizing image. It's a classic case of personal reputation bleeding into business, and for Prime, it was disastrous. While Logan excelled at creating buzz on social media, the skills required to run a sustainable business, like understanding supply chains, legal obligations, and customer satisfaction, proved to be a different beast entirely. What worked for generating views didn't translate into keeping a company afloat, and ultimately, Prime crumbled under the weight of its own mismanagement. Social media was both the rocket fuel for Prime's rise and the anchor that dragged it down. At first, platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok were the perfect stage for Logan Paul and KSI to hype their new drink, and their massive followings turned Prime into an instant hit. But as soon as cracks began to show, declining sales, lawsuits, and poor management, those same platforms became a breeding ground for backlash. Logan Paul's controversial past resurfaced, adding more fuel to the fire, and suddenly, the brand that was once beloved became a cautionary tale. This whole saga has made one thing clear: the days of blindly trusting influencer-backed products might be over, as consumers are starting to demand more than just a famous name on the label. Prime's financial instability was the tipping point that pushed the company toward collapse. What began as a venture with sky-high potential quickly sank into debt and dwindling profits. As sales plummeted, the financial strain became unbearable, especially with lawsuits piling on from companies like Refresco and Agravana, each demanding hefty damages. The brand's reputation has been battered, and it's hard to see how Prime can recover without a complete overhaul or even a shutdown. Investors and partners are likely steering clear of a company that's shown such instability, and without major changes in management, Prime's future looks bleak. This doesn't just affect Prime. It's a blow to Logan Paul's entire business empire, which was supposed to transcend his YouTube fame. The fallout from Prime's struggles is a harsh reminder that being a successful influencer doesn't automatically translate to being a successful entrepreneur, and mistakes in one area can ripple across everything else. Prime's downfall can be traced back to several critical mistakes, including poor legal practices, insufficient market research, and weak brand management. The failure to honor contracts with key partners like Refresco and Agravana led to costly lawsuits, while the reliance on social media hype without understanding the competitive landscape resulted in declining sales. Logan Paul's focus on short-term gains, coupled with his controversial public image, further eroded the brand's credibility. Ultimately, Prime became a victim of its own hype, serving as a cautionary tale for influencers that success in business requires more than just fame. It demands a solid foundation, thorough planning, and a long-term vision. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.